Hi, welcome to episode 358 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura, and I can also be found as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be, and I have an Etsy shop where I sell my handspun yarn and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, December 28th. It is the Monday after Christmas weekend, and I hope that if you celebrate, you had a wonderful holiday, and if you don't, that you had a wonderful weekend. I will also say Happy Kwanzaa to those who are celebrating. I know Hanukkah was earlier in the month, and if there is something else you celebrate, then I wish you lots of warm wishes for that. I hope you're doing well and that you've had a little time to craft, especially now that all the gift giving is over, that you are able to do a little something for yourself. So we had a good Christmas. We went to my mother-in-law's for just a couple days and hung out there. They live not too far from us, just a couple hours away. We did a bunch of jigsaw puzzles. My mother-in-law loves playing board games, so there was lots of that. There was good food and some hanging out, and of course I got a bunch of knitting done, so I have some things to show you. This week is a little bit slow. I am taking today off and then also Friday for New Year's Eve, so I'll only be working 3 days this week, which is kind of a nice break. Today we have mostly watched movies and TV shows that we follow, and I have had some knitting time and just some time to sit and decompress. I saw on Instagram a couple days ago something about the week between Christmas and New Year's being a time that for rest and renewal and getting ready for the new year, and maybe not having to be so productive as normal. And I think I might take that to heart. I mean, I'm still going to be working on knitting projects, and I'm still going to exercise and do a little bit of work, but I think I just want to take it easy and try and take the time to sort of rest and recuperate from a crazy year right before we go into a new one. So that's kind of what I'm up to. It has been unseasonably warm here. We were almost at 70 degrees on Christmas Day, although the weather is supposed to turn tomorrow and then it's supposed to get cold again. So I hope wherever you are not too bothered or burdened by whatever weather you're receiving. I do know that the Pacific Northwest was incredibly cold. Colorado got tons of snow, and that other areas through the Midwest and South were unseasonably warm. So I hope whatever you've got, it's not bothering you too much. So today I'm still taking one more week to enjoy my Christmas teas. This is Vintage Christmas from my local shop, which is Tea Market. I believe it might be a Harney & Sons blend, though I'm not sure. It is black tea. It smells a little bit fruity, and then it's also got bits of popcorn and sprinkles in there, so it just smells sweet and Christmassy, and I am drinking that today in my Roastery coffee mug. Roastery is a local to us coffee shop, but I love the enamel mug because it keeps my drinks warm for so much longer. So that is delicious and a good afternoon pick-me-up. We have just been hanging out around the house today. I am gonna kind of doing a couch to 5K. I keep repeating the weeks over and over and over, so I'm not moving very fast, but I will do that after this, and then I will probably take a shower and get into fresh pajamas and hang out and knit for the rest of the night. So I do have some finished objects to show you from before I left for the holidays. So I have the last 3 hats to show you. The first is a pattern called Tamarugo, and I never remember the designer's name, but it will be in the show notes. This is a lovely hat pattern, and I can't remember whether I think it's a free pattern, but if it is not, I purchased it a while ago, and this is at least my 3rd time making it. It is a really nice pattern with some slipped stitches, and then you catch those slips a few rows on, so it just makes a really nice kind of textured, almost herringbone pattern. The pattern is written for Aran weight, and I went ahead and did it in DK weight. This is Barocco Vintage DK in the colorway Forestry. I had a cake and a little bit more left over, which is why you're seeing it in so many of my hats. And so this was just a quick knit, and I can't remember Because I knit it in DK, I went down to size 5 and 7 needles. It is written for, I think, worsted or Aran weight and to be on larger needles. And I cannot remember, I might have added a pattern repeat just so that the hat would be a nice size, but that's going to go into my donation bin. So that's 1. 2 is actually a hat that had been on the needles for a while and had been stalled for a while. It was one of my sort of scrappy hats that I was putting together, and I got through a certain percentage and then couldn't decide what I wanted the top color to be. So that is this one, and this is actually mostly in worsted weight. The top is DK weight because I ultimately just finished with that, but I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. So the brim is Malabrigo Rios, which is worsted, and it's in the purple colorway. I think it's Purpurus, and I used it for Roxy's Christmas hat this year, and I had enough to do the pom-pom and the brim. And then I had this leftover bit of green, which is actually a Dream in Color Classy. It was a special, special dyed skein that came out kind of modeled, and it was done a long time ago, and I have used it in multiple projects because it originally was a hat for my nephew on Wes's side, who is now 17, and I did it when he was a kid. So I've had this leftover remnant forever, this last little bit, and then I got through the purple and the green, and I could not decide what color to put on top, and it just sat and sat and sat, and I got to the end of my Christmas hats the end of my scrappy hats this year, and I was just looking for something, and so I finally just was like, select anything, just finish it. So I pulled some of the orange, which is the At the Hearth colorway from Apothecary Fibers. It's her DK, Delightful DK, and that was what I used for my Nanny Swaymo sweater this year. So that is kind of a purple, green, and orange hat, and I do like the way that came out. This, I think, was actually one of the first couple hats I cast on this time, and because it's worsted, I did it on my 6s and on my 8s, and it sat on my 8 needle while I worked through the rest of my DK hats. So I want to say this was like the first or second hat I cast on, and it just sat waiting for that top part because I could not decide what color to put at the top. So that one is done. And then we have the final hat, and this marks a dozen hats that I knit. Only 11 will go to charity because one of them was for my sister, but I knit my 12 hats in just about 2 weeks this time. And this is another Painting Honeycombs from Stephen West. And I used all these little bits of colors, most of which I only had enough for 1 or 2 repeats. And these were leftovers from various projects. The main color is the Stylecraft DK in silver. I had a full skein of that when I started, and I still have just a little bit left, so you might see it in a few of next year's hats. And then the leftovers are Zen Yarn Garden Superfine DK, left over from, actually, I take it back. Some of it is worsted, some of it is DK. No, it's all DK. Left over from when I did a night shift shawl and a few other things. So it's a nice kind of mottled, a little bit dark. The camera's blowing out the silver, but it's nice. It's got some different blues and grays and burgundies and some fun stuff. And then I used a bunch of the different leftovers to make the pom-pom because I had just a little bit left after doing some of these. Not enough to use for anything else, but enough to wind around the pom-pom maker a few times. So that is the 12th and final hat for this season. So I have 11 hats for charity. They'll go next year. Excuse me. Sip of tea. A little bit gunky. So that is what I will send as a donation next year. And who knows, I may come up with some more hats. I have some more ideas for things, and as I work through the year on projects, I will have more yarn that will get added to. I just keep a bag of all the leftover partial walls, particularly the ones that are 10, 15, 20 grams, not enough to do a lot with. If I have a half a skein, that's usually enough to do something with, so I sort of put that in a different spot. But I just kind of gather up all my leftovers throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, I have a bag of leftovers to choose from. The other thing I would like to do is I discovered someplace that will take wool-made items A lot of places ask for superwash or easy care items, but Wool Aid will take things that are made of 100% wool. It does not have to be superwash. Their aim is on warm clothing that can be worn, that will, wick away any body moisture, and will keep them nice and warm in very cold temperatures. And I have a ton of skeins of my early handspun, and my early handspun is not that great, but it's super colorful. And I think if I cut out the most problematic areas, I might be able to knit some hats with it. And I think handspun hats would be super cheery and fun. So next year I may actually knit up a bunch of my handspun. I don't know, we'll see, or maybe I'll tackle that sometime when I have a lull this year or summer, because I'm kind of eager to get into that. We'll have to see how things go and how my schedule goes, but you will definitely see more scrappy or handspun things in the future. So, the other thing that I finished before I left for Christmas is I finished Miss Roxy's Valentine's Day socks. And these are out of Zen Yarn Garden Super Fine fingering, and they were in a colorway that reminded me sort of chocolate cherry, and I thought they would be nice for some Valentine's Day socks. I send the kids Valentine's Day packages every year, and so hers are done, which is surprising for me. Usually I remember mid-January and then I have to rush to get them all done and out the door. So hers are done. I still have not started on her brother's, but I have the skein picked out. It's not wound up yet, and that might be a next week or week after project, but I'm happy to have a good start on these and have these done and ready to go. So those are the finished objects that I finished before I left, which left my needles really relatively empty. And I had shown you last week and the few weeks before a few things that I wanted to start. So the first thing that I started, and let me grab a sock blocker, is I cast on for Little Bobbins Knits Christmas Eve cast on. And she has been doing this for quite a while. I am not using her sock pattern this year. Normally Danny, who is from the Little Bobbins Knits podcast, she used to podcast more frequently. She had a baby a few years ago and has really podcasted intermittently since then. She also has a few pattern designs. She has some really beautiful sock patterns, and she always releases a Christmas Eve socks pattern, but and this year the socks are not really my style. They're very pretty, but they're not my style. And I don't often knit her pattern, but I do like her Christmas Eve cast on. She always talks about how magical it is on a special evening like Christmas Eve to wind up a skein of yarn and start a new project. And so I have been doing that for the last several years with her. And most often I cast on socks, and often I will actually cast on Christmas socks, which is kind of funny because usually I get through the month before Christmas and I'm working on getting samples out the door and presents finished, and I never manage to knit a skein of Christmas socks or knit a pair of Christmas socks for myself. So often I cast them on Christmas Eve and finish them sometime after New Year's, and then I keep them in the drawer until the following year, or I just wear them anytime. Anyway, this year I decided to pull out a handspun skein of yarn that I spun last year, and I'll show you both skeins. I divided this skein into two, so this is the remaining full skein, and I'm working through the first skein. So this was a skein of yarn that I called Aggressively Christmas, and the reason I called it Aggressively Christmas is because it was bright reds and pinks, and then it was bright neon lime green, and then also you can see little bits of it was a little minty green in there too. So it's reds and kind of an orangey red, and then a dark pinky red, and then a few different colors of greens, and it spun up to be bright and psychedelic, and I am calling them my Aggressively Christmas socks just because it is such bright colors. And I actually still have a fair amount left because I have quite a bit of sock, and I might just go ahead and make these knee socks and finish off the entire skein. I am again knitting these socks toe up, just like I knit my last pair of socks that I knit, I believe, over the Thanksgiving-ish time frame. They are my own handspun, and I am using David Schultz's Toe Up Sock Cookbook, I think. toe-up sock cookbook. It is a pattern written for, it's kind of a recipe, and it is a pattern written for toe-up socks. And the pattern was loosely written to go with handspun. And what you do is you take a gauge swatch of your handspun, if you are smart and into that sort of thing, or if you're me, you just knit a toe and see how it looks, and then take your measurements, and then you can calculate out the rest of your sock, how long the foot should be, where you should start the heel, how many stitches you should do for the heel. It is a gusset and heel flap, but toe up sock, and I prefer to knit socks top down, but when I am knitting with my handspun, I really enjoy being able to knit as much of the handspun as I want because it's so pretty and I want to use it up. And so when I knit handspun socks, I often start at the toe so that I can take advantage of that. So that's a long way to say here is my first aggressively Christmas sock. As you can see, we have some pink and some red. You can see up here kind of the reds, how they flow. Obviously, we have areas where the red and green overlap, and then we also have sections of the bright neon green and the kind of minty green. So this is as far as I am. The socks will be fraternal, so I'm not worrying about matching them at all. I did not spin it to match, and as I said, I still have quite a bit left. So I mean, these could easily be knee socks, and I am starting to incorporate some increases into the leg. So I knit this, I cast this on Christmas Eve, and today is the 27th, so this is just about 3 days worth of work. I do have size 6 feet. I am knitting 56 stitches on size 1s, which will make them a little bit roomy for me, but I actually really like my handspun socks roomy. I generally don't end up wearing my handspun socks in shoes, but I wear them as thick house socks, and so that is what I am doing with these. And I was actually kind of tickled when I packed my bag to go to my mother-in-law's. I pulled out most of my pairs of Christmas socks. I have 4 or 5 pairs now, and I managed to wear one of them each day of the long weekend. So I'm super excited to have another pair to add to that, and I will be working on these in the next week or two. My hope is that I will finish up this one for sure this week and get started on the next one. I would love to be finished with these by mid-January. They are not my top priority, but they are super fun, and I would love to finish with these. I guess I should finish them so that I can put Miles' socks on the needles next. So maybe I will work on these more this week and next week and hope to finish them. I'm not going to guarantee 2 socks finished next week though, because I'm just not sure I'll get there. So those are my Christmas Eve cast-on socks, and again, I'm calling those my aggressively Christmas socks, and I am enjoying them immensely. This is, knitting with handspun is very addictive to me. It's also a little bit like knitting with self-striping sock yarn, which is like just one more row, just see what the next pattern repeat does, just see what comes up next. So that is motivating to knit through those. So the second project that I have to share with you is also a new cast on. I showed you the yarn and the pattern last week. The pattern is the Courage Shawl by Shannon Cook, and this is not the best picture, but it will give you a little bit of an idea. It is a 3-color worsted weight shawl, and then it is worked with alternating bands of color, and then also mosaic stitches or slip stitch knitting to create different patterns. And I am actually 2/3 of the way through the written rows. My guess is that puts me about halfway through the knitting of the shawl, because of course it is a triangular shawl and it is getting bigger. It is now too big to show you the whole thing on my needle, which is kind of fun. But I worked through this while we played board games and while we did jigsaw puzzles and watched movies over the weekend, and this is what I have so far. I'm kind of going to show you half the shawl because it will be a little bit easier to show you that. So as I said, this is a 3-color shawl. I am using Zen Yarn Garden yarns. I am using their Serenity worsted in a natural colorway. I am using their Nightshade worsted. The Nightshade has one strand is black, so it ends up looking very marled, and the colorway is chuffed, and it is a kind of spatter dyed. I will show you the skein itself after I show you this. And then the black is the Midnight colorway, also on the Nightshade base, but of course you can't see the marl because it's all dyed black. So you can see that it is a variety of different slip stitches and mosaic patterns, and I am just working through, and I'm almost done with my second repeat here. You can see that it kind of matches further in, and this is going to be worsted weight and just absolutely lovely. I will show you my colors again. And I'm going to be breaking into the second skeins of many of them this week, if not all of them. This is the Serenity worsted base from Zen Yarn Garden. That is, I believe, a merino cashmere nylon. Hang on just a second. It is a 75% superwash merino, 15% cashmere, 10% nylon, 175 yards. Again, this is in the undyed natural. Then I am doing the nightshade worsted in the midnight colorway, and I believe the yardage is the same. Oh yes, this ball is still attached, so I can't completely wind that up. So those are my two colors, and then my third color is, like I said, this marled colorway on the nightshade worsted, because one of the strands is black, and then they dyed it all these great pink and purple and red and orange, and I am using this. So these are my three colors. I will be breaking into skein number 2 for both of these, I am sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to for the white. The yardage called for is a little more than the yardage in a single skein. The pattern was originally done in Germantown, which comes 220 yards to the skein, and this is only 175. So I might have to break into the extra one for this, but I will definitely for the black and most likely for the marl as well. And I am excited to be working on that. My hope is actually to finish that shawl this week. I feel like I've done half the knitting, and I did it kind of over the weekend, because I started this on Thursday as we drove to my mother-in-law's, and so I have gotten this far by today, so I'm hoping maybe I'll be able to finish it by next weekend and then block it and show it to you. All told, I think it's going to be about between 700 and 800 yards of worsted weight. So it is a lot to knit, but it's working up quickly because it's a shawl, and it's going to be really soft and cozy and beautiful, and I love how these colors play together. So that is the other project on my needles right now. I do have plenty of things I am eager to start. I am half considering trying to knit a big bulky weight sweater next weekend, basically starting on Friday and knitting through New Year's weekend, and seeing if I can bang out a sweater in a whole weekend. And if I do, I will bring that to you. The other thing I am thinking about swatching for and casting on is my mom's sweater, which will be a cardigan pattern by Joji Locatelli in fingering weight yarn. And if I do that, I will also bring that next week. I have one more sample in my possession to work on. Once I finish the Zen Yarn Garden shawl, I have a cowl and hat sampler to do, and so that will be up next on my needles. I have some chickens that I am knitting for. That is going on in the background. I didn't bring any of that because we're using plain white this time, so it's not very exciting to look at. And I think that's it for now. I have a million things I would love to cast on for myself, but I'll just have to see how the next few months play out. And I might wind up some of that handspun yarn and see about doing a few hats here or there, because they're great projects to just keep on the needles and work on with some mindless knitting or in meetings or whatnot, although I do have the socks to work on, so maybe I'll finish socks first and then go back to hats. So spinning wise, I don't have anything to show you. I am almost done spinning the singles for a braid I showed you a couple weeks ago. It is a Hello Yarn Rambouillet braid called Botany, and it is in fall colors. My guess is I will finish spinning those singles in the next day or so, and then I will ply that up. So I should have that to show you next week. I did, however, bring another braid for spinning, and I think I'm going to dig into this one this week. And this is very Southwest colors. This was a special colorway that a favorite fiber dyer of mine dyed. It is Apothecary Fabrications. I just knit my Nanny Swaymo sweater out of her yarn, but I have been spinning her fiber for a while, and it is absolutely stunning. It's beautifully prepared. She has beautiful colors. I would really suggest you check it out if you are interested in spinning. She's semi-local to me. I think she lives somewhere in the middle of Missouri, so within a few hours. And I was introduced to her because she has been at a variety of our shows, and Yarn Social, my local yarn store, sometimes stocks her fibers. So this is her label, Apothecary Fiber, and it is also a Rambouillet braid. And this was dyed as part of the Indie Untangled project. Indie Untangled features a wide variety of indie dyers, and for the last several years, they have been dyeing around the theme of national parks. And this was, I believe, a sunset at a national park with some dark blues and teals, and it was just a stunning colorway. And I actually have 2 braids of it, but I decided I'll just spin up one at this point. But I just love these colors, and I'm hoping, I haven't decided quite how to spin it. I could divide it into lights and darks. I could try and just do a chain ply so that I could keep the colors somewhat the way they are, which I might do because I'm a little afraid the orange and the green could get a little muddy. But whatever I do with it, this is just stunning, stunning fiber, and I'm really excited by it. So that will be my next spin. It's just got such beautiful colors. And this will be available in the shop. So if this is something you think you might like, let me know, and I will be working on this. So I think that's all I have for you today. I hope that you are enjoying the end of the year. I know that this time is stressful for many and fraught with a lot of end of year feelings. I know that the holidays are hard for a lot of people because you're missing people that have gone or that you can't be with. I know starting over a new year and thinking about New Year's resolutions is daunting. Spoiler alert, I don't think I'm making any this year. And this has been a really, really difficult year. We had thought after 2020 maybe we'd get some reprieve in 2021, and that hasn't really been the case, and I don't know what 2022 is going to look like. So I wish you, I won't see you again until the new year, so I wish you a peaceful end of year. I hope that however you get through in the next week or two, that you can find some semblance of calm in your crafting or find something to throw yourself into. I wish you a happy and healthy new year. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and I'm hoping that this next year will be a better one for us all. Thank you for joining me all year, and I look forward to seeing you in the new year. I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next year. Bye.